Hello guys, and today we continue our Russian geography lessons, during which we discover more about their locations based on the destructions of military objects there. And our lesson today will be particularly interesting because we will travel to Murmansk, and that is a city close to the Arctic, one of the main naval bases of the Russian fleet in the North Sea, and actually one that they quite often use to terrorize NATO countries in the Arctic. Also, another Russian aircraft exploded while still on a military base near Moscow. Perhaps it was their reaction on Putin's press conference, which was full of BS. This was also a day of Russian attack on Kyiv, and one of the most beautiful Roman Catholic cathedrals was partially damaged by debris. I hope the Pope sees that when he speaks about Ukraine and Russia as brotherly nations, unless he means a very famous biblical story of Cain and Abel. So let's discuss all of these important events from an ordinary Ukrainian perspective. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the defeat of Russia and its demilitarization, and also protect yourself against evil Russian hybrid warfare, subscribe. We discuss all of that on the channel. And let's start with my favorite part, that is a geography lesson, wherein we travel to Murmansk. Murmansk is definitely not the city you'd love to live, and I think that the majority of population there are ones whose families were exiled during, let's say, Stalin period or something like that. The weather conditions are very poor there, and it is the city in the Arctic. And it is full of various military objects. That's why I believe explosions will return back to this location and we will have more classes on Murmansk. So right now we know that explosions were loud and Russian forces had to comment on them. We will verify sometime soon what exactly was targeted, but the choice of targets is beautiful. This menu includes, first of all, main naval base of Russian North Fleet. And I think that it was it. But also they have a very big ammunition depot with missiles nearby and an air base with fighters and bombers also located there. So I am sure drones or sabotage will definitely return there. We will buy more cigarettes for those smokers that so often visit Russian military objects. Once again, Russia is quite active in the Arctic. Russia uses its ships to, not just patrol the situation, but to test NATO countries, their reaction. So actually by demilitarizing Russia in the Arctic, we do a good job and invest in our Ukrainian NATO future. I hope you appreciate that too. Another good thing is -1 Russian AN-72. Russia is not a rich country. You know that its GDP is smaller than Italian or of the Scandinavian countries, and taking into account its size, taking into account natural resources it possesses, it is an epic failure of the Russian management. So this AN-72 exploded while still on the military airbase, and actually $4.5 million exploded together with it, because that's the approximate price of an aircraft. Russia loses tremendous sums of money on this war, and taking into account that Putin began his blitzkrieg as already poor Russia, like quite miserable. And I was actually happy to read the article in The Economist, which states that even war-torn Ukraine has healthier economy than Russia, that is protected by so many of even our allies against the strikes deep inside the territory. Subscribe to see the collapse of the Russian economy and then the Federation itself, and please share these videos on your social media platforms. This is important. And same is important to be very alert, because during this period after the elections in the United States, when we still don't know the attitude of the President Trump, Putin tries to use this period to cause more harm to Ukraine. There are reports about attacks on Kherson region. Russians try to get closer to the city, which they escaped from in 2022, and actually Kherson was the only regional center that they managed to capture since the start of the full-scale invasion, and later they were thrown out of it by the Ukrainian armed forces. And same happened to them today when they shelled the city. You know, they continue this awful human hunting. I don't like the word safari to describe that in Kherson, when they literally train their drone operators on real civilians in Kherson, and they actually share these videos online. And there are still people in the world who somehow try to explain Russia's actions when it is pure evil on the planet, the embassy of hell, and we have to shut it down. Because once again, Russia's strike on Kyiv today actually damaged the buildings of a number of embassies that were located close to the strike. And among them, I remember the Argentinian one, because, you know, I have relatives in this beautiful country. But also there are a few embassies that were damaged by a Russian missile strike of NATO countries. And as far as I remember, any embassy is considered the territory of that country. So we may officially say that today in the morning, Russia did not just hit Kyiv, but also these NATO countries. And it has to be punished. It has to receive the reaction that it deserves. You know that bullies only understand the language of force and power. And stop seeing Russia as something big or terrifying. It's something violent, it's something crazy, but it's definitely not strong. Just as its Botox leader, and those of you who watched his speech yesterday, I will connect our previous video on that, clearly saw this weakness, delusion, detachment from reality, and as one of my beautiful friends said, very vivid cognitive decline. And a serious decline happened on Russian pipe Druzhba, because it is not functioning for a certain reason. Something happened to its system and it stopped transporting oil. We will see what happens tomorrow, but a kind reminder: Ukraine stops the transit of Russian gas, and that's important. We are free from our obligations on the 1st of January. We have to be very decisive, very strict, and very, follow our plan in the actions with Russia, because Russia is a country that has violated all the agreements it has ever signed. And only a very stupid person can negotiate with Putin. Any normal peace plan includes the defeat of Russia, the prosecution and imprisonment of Putin and the criminal gang of the Kremlin, the demilitarization of Russia, and then we will speak with the population. How do they see their future, perhaps in the new, totally rebuilt states? Because Russia consists of 24 people's republics, and Russia, Muscovy, this classical Russia as you understand it, is just one of them. Please remember that. By the way, let me know, would you like a separate video about these peoples that actually constitute an enormously and unnaturally big Russian Federation? And also, I have a question to my viewers from the United States, but also from literally every corner of the world. There are reports that Trump promised to support Ukraine, to continue supporting Ukraine, but just that he will demand NATO countries to spend 5% of their GDP on NATO. I don't mind. I actually think that's a great idea, taking into account all these wars provoked by Russia and its allies in different corners of the world. So do you think it's true? Because I've read some titles, I heard the sound, but I'm not sure if I can trust it. And remember to join me tomorrow for our live questions and answers. I'd be happy to speak with you about important topics like the collapsing Russian economy. So join me tomorrow at 9 p.m. Kyiv time. Also follow me on Instagram, X, Threads, Discord and Blue Sky. And I have shared one very unusual for me video on Twitter, because perhaps only Twitter will allow that, X. So if you're not yet subscribed, do connect and I'm sure you may like it. You will find the link in the description of this video. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel. Check our merch shop for lots of good items that work well as reminders, conversation starters about Ukraine, and also perfect holiday presents. And most importantly, thank you for your advice, for your kind words in comments, for sharing these videos on social media platforms. But most importantly, thank you for standing with Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!